Oh, hey y'all, Fat Man Outdoors. Hey, if you liked the video, click that like button and click subscribe so that you'll get notifications whenever we post new content. Appreciate you watching. This is the Fat Man. I'm gone. Hey y'all, Fat Man Outdoors. Hadn't been able to make some videos for a few days. Been trying to turkey hunt and kill a turkey. Things ain't working out. There's so many hens around here where I'm trying to hunt. It's just hard to get them away from the hens. So still working on it. Still got till May the 5th. I still have faith. I believe we're going to get one. There's just too many toms around, but there's a lot of hens. So going to have to wait as they breed those hens and they move on to lay their eggs and set on the nest. There'll be fewer hens for the toms to tie up with, and we'll have a better chance of pulling one of them off. But I've got a little bit of something I need to do here today. A guy dropped off, wanted me to take care of for him. What I've got is a Smith & Wesson Model 10 K-Frame 6-shot 38 special. I believe this pistol is going to be made in the early to mid 1920s. The last patent date on it was 1914. It does not have a model number on it because it's pre-1957, and they didn't start putting model numbers on everything until 1957. So what the deal is, I think this has been kind of like a grandpa's old gun deal. It was laid up. It's in pretty rough condition. There's some rusting spots. There's a lot of dirt and grime. If you look down the bore, it's really bad. It's really dirty. Cylinder's really dirty. So what we're going to do is, I'm not going to completely disassemble this gun. All I'm going to do is take the side plate off, because the only thing the guy wants it for is just cleaned up and be able to put it up and it be okay and not start rusting up bad. Sorry about the barking. We've got 2 new members here. Come here, girls. Come here. Got 2 new members here to the clan. This is... Come here. This is Maple, and this is Roxy, and they are half St. Bernard and half Mastiff. These puppies weigh about 25 pounds a piece right now, and they're 3 months old. Yeah, they're big, they're huge. So anyway, back to what we're talking about. If you've watched my show very much, you've seen my little small sonic cleaner that I use. That's what I'm going to use to clean this pistol. I'm just going to take the handles off, take the side plate out, and drop everything right down in hot water and let the sonic cleaner clean everything for about, I don't know, probably 30 minutes. And it'll get all that grime and gunk and everything loose. And while the gun is hot, I'm going to wipe it down, make sure I get all of the moisture out of it. And the gun being hot from coming out of that water will help us, because it'll evaporate all the moisture in little nooks and crannies we can't get to. Then after that happens, then we're going to put a good coat of CLP on this thing and put everything back together, and it'll be good to go. So all I need to do at this point right now is, you need a good screwdriver and you need some good bits, okay? And you need to make sure you get ones that fit the screws. This was a 1/8. And I'm going to take the screws out of this real quick. Now, you got to be careful when taking these screws out in these old guns. Be careful that you keep them in order, because some of them are not the same. And make sure if you come up on one and it don't feel like it's going to come out, don't try to force it. Girls, don't try to force it, because if you break it down in there, you're in trouble. And then you've got somebody's, what they may consider as a priceless firearm, you've got it stuck in a bad place. And you don't want that. Now right there is one that's Oh, it come loose. I was kind of worried I wasn't going to go much more above pressure on that one, but it come loose. This old gun's probably never been taken apart. Probably never been taken apart. Now, I'm lucky all three of those screws are exactly the same, but now this top screw at the tang right here, let me bring the camera down just a little bit. This top screw right here next to the hammer, these screws should never ever be tightened all the way up, okay? But it's a different size screw, so you need to make sure that you keep that to the side. All right, now, okay, so now I've got all the screws out of the side plate. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to take the handles off. A lot of people do that first. I don't, because if I run across a screw in that side plate that won't move, that it's not going to come out, then it'd be a waste of my time to try to go ahead and take the handle off if the gun's not going to come apart the rest of the way. So now sometimes these little screws right here, man, them some old grips. Wow, that's the original old just horn. They're walnut. They are a great testament to somebody's took care of this gun really well. They're not cracked anywhere. Somebody's had it apart at one time, I think, and scratched some stuff in on it. I don't know what. On the inside of the handles, that's kind of interesting. It's not that way on the other side. That's interesting. Okay, so anyway, now what we got the handles off, okay, and I'm going to release the tension now off of this main spring, this screw right here. Again, it's another one of the screws that doesn't load up or doesn't tighten all the way up. It's just made to back it off so you take pressure off of that spring right there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, so now I'm going to turn the gun over and I'm just going to pick, and there it dropped right off. That side plate dropped right off. That was awesome. A lot of times that's not the way things work when you're working on these old guns. Now I'm going to take the mainspring, I'm going to take it out. But you need to always remember, when you take stuff out, you need to remember how it goes back. That mainspring has got like a little something like a little pin that it sets on, but what it is, it's a yoke with two pins, one sticking up, one sticking down, and the actual spring itself, I'll try to hold this up in front of the camera, maybe you can see it. The spring itself is split right there. You can see it right there in the middle, and that kind of goes in between that and holds it in there, and that's all it does for the spring. Now, as you can see, you can look on this plate, and there is a lot of dirt, grime, rust. This gun's probably never been apart. I would venture to say that it's never been apart. And but we're going to put it back together very shortly here. Just checking stuff out, seeing what's what. Making sure we're not going to have any kind of an issue when we go to put this thing back. Everything looks good. Alright, looking inside there. Okay, that's the trigger return block and spring. That's the biggest thing I wanted to look at. You don't want to take that out if you don't have to, because there's a little pin that spring goes behind, and it's got a lot of tension behind it, and those things are hard to get back and get back right. So if you don't have to take that apart, don't have to take that out when you go to clean one of these, don't do it. That's why I like the sonic cleaner. I can take the sonic cleaner, set the whole thing down in there without the handles, turn this on and let it run, and just lay it flat down in there, and I don't have any issues with stuff falling out that I don't want to fall out, or stuff getting out of kilter. But you just need to make sure that everything looks okay, because he says he's probably never going to shoot this, but we'll see. You know, you never know. Okay, yeah, everything looks good there. I'm just easing the hammer back just a little bit, take a look at the action, how everything passes. Man, there's a lot of dirt and grime in there. Wow. Alright, now I'm going to gently open this thing back up. We don't want to cause an avalanche of stuff flying out of there. Okay, because some of the pieces will just fall out, some of them won't, but some of them will. We don't want that to happen. We want everything to stay where it's supposed to stay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the lid off of my sonic cleaner. Look this thing over one more good time. Everything looks like it's in the proper alignment and in the proper place. And I'm going to drop this right down in there. Okay. And then I'm going to drop the mainspring down in there. And I want to drop this side plate down in there. Now remember, this side plate's got some spring-loaded stuff on it, so you make sure everything's in place when you get ready to put it back together. Okay, got that down in there. Let me see if I can arrange that just a tad better. Yeah, like that. That's what I want. Sometimes you just gotta finagle them just right. There we go. And then cover it up. Now what I've got in there is some degreaser that will it'll get all the dirt and the grime, and it'll get in places that even without completely disassembling it I couldn't get into. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this thing on. I'm going to set the time for 30 minutes, and I'm going to hit the on button. And when this thing gets done, we'll come back and I'll show you how I cleaned everything out, and we'll get her put back together and have a good clean pistol that we're going to oil up, and he'll be able to put it away and it'll last for years. We'll be back. Alright, looks like our biscuits are ready. Now we can shut this down. Take off our lid. Thing's kind of hot. That water's pretty warm. Alrighty. Set this to the side. Oh yeah. Ooh, that thing is warm, buddy. That thing is warm. Lay it right here on some paper towel and let it drain while I'm getting the parts out of the basket. The cover, side plate, and the mainspring. Alright. Now, what I'm going to do is take a piece of paper towel, and I'm going to immediately dry off everything while it's still hot, because that heat, whew, it is hot. That heat will actually evaporate the water and get it out of the nooks and crannies and help us do what we're trying to do. Dry that cylinder pin off real good. Get all that off of there. Wow, that's incredible. Now, I brought something else out here. Dropped my Q-tips. Brass brush that I'm going to use. I'm going to run through each one of the cylinders. Again, while they're still hot. Break everything out of there that I can. If there's anything built up, and there was some rough looking stuff in it, but I bet you it's not there now. All them shining like new money now. Oh, yeah. Dry everything off real good. Alright, we'll Lay the cylinder down right there. Take a look at everything, see how everything came out. Oh wow, yeah. I hope you guys can see the difference. Everything's nice and clean and shiny in there. That's what we were looking for. Yeah, got all that grime and stuff out of there. And 80 or 90 years worth of gunk, just stuff. Now I'm going to run my brass rod here with my brush. Guys, make sure you use brass rods. Don't use metal rods, especially on these old guns. Now, let's redneck check this. I'm using my thumbnail for a reflective surface. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take this brass brush off, and I am going to rub the inside of the bore and the cylinder out with this cotton. Let's see what that made things look like. Oh yeah, yeah boy, pretty good shape for its age. Just had a lot of mistreatment, I guess. 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh man, I'm almost going to bet you that before I took this down and done it, I didn't try any rounds to put any rounds in it. I'd almost bet you that you couldn't have fit a round in it. Now what I want to do with this side plate, I've got my CLP here. I'm going to dab just a couple of dabs on there, and I've got a brass brush. Don't use a metal brush, a brass brush. I'm going to just lightly rub the inside of this plate with this brass brush, so if there's anything in there that didn't break up. Then I'm also going to rub the mainspring. Again, there's nothing left on it, but I like to do stuff like this to make sure. And CLP gun, not only does it lubricate and protect against rust and corrosion, but it also cleans. So if there's any gunk on there that's not supposed to be on there, it'll help to strip it off. Now we're going to wipe this down. Oh wow, yeah, made it look so nice. Nice and clean. Get that down in that pinette valley. Wow, done a great job. Unfortunately, this old gun's been through the ringer a couple of times, it would appear, and it's got some pretty bad nicks and the blue's worn off. It's been shot quite a bit from what I can guess. I need to get me a Q-tip here and get right down in that pilot. Yeah, there we go. That thing came out clean. That's pretty good, man. That is pretty good. Looks good. Looks real good. Good enough now you can see all the places they put little numbers. Pretty good. Pretty good. Alright. We got that done. We got that done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set everything off of this piece of paper towel, because now this piece of paper towel has got some moisture in it, and I want to get that away from what we're doing now, because we're past that point. Now we want everything to be dry. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a couple pieces of paper towel, dry paper towel. Okay, so now I've got a couple pieces of dry paper towel down, and I've got 2 of these 3-inch gun cleaning patches. I'm going to take some CLP, put a little of it on there. Don't take a lot. That's probably way more than I need. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rubbing this frame down. Get everything lubricated. Now this CLP is going to pull moisture away, and it's going to lubricate and seal up everything. So now we want to get everything rubbed down real well. Make sure everything's in place. Make sure everything gets some of this. Okay. Now, right now I'm just going to concentrate on the side plate side of the pistol. Okay. Alright, now I'm actually going to take a couple of drops of CLP and I'm going to put in areas where there's moving parts and joints. I want everything to get a drop of this so that we're going to get real good lubrication and nothing's going to be held up and not moving well. That's what we want. Alright, now I'm going to wipe the cylinder down. On the outside only. Do not put oil inside the cylinder yet. We'll do that in a minute because you need to do that in a specific way so not to cause problems when you fire the gun. Because if you got oil in the wrong places and too much of it, then you'll cause the cylinder, the cartridges to swell when you fire the weapon, and then you're going to have a problem getting your casings back out of the gun, which is something you don't want to have to deal with. Okay, so now get everything slid up together. Alright, we got the cylinder locked back in. Don't worry about touching it at the moment because right now that gun is still hot and the pores are open in that metal and that CLP is pulling down in there. That's some good stuff, guys. That CLP gun, it's good stuff. I use a ton of this stuff. It's will always and forever be my go-to when it comes to lubricating a gun. Okay, now we've got everything lubricated, so now we're going to start the complete reassembly. We've checked everything, make sure everything's in place, everything's good and clean, there's not a bunch of grime on anything. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this mainspring, and there is a little arm there that this goes under. This fork goes under it, okay? And you don't want to not do this first, because if you do, then you're gonna suffer later because it's aggravating to put this thing in there. You can do it blindly. I've done a couple of them, and never has one of them been fun. It usually will make you want to say bad stuff, so I try not to do that. Alright, we got the mainspring in there. You can see it's captured on that pin right there, and it's in its slot. Now the next thing is put the side plate on. Got to make sure that that cylinder catch is pushed forward so that everything will go together, and then you just set it on there and it'll pop in place. So now we're going to go ahead and put it on. Alright, now I'm going to put the side plate back on. Alright, so we get it on there. Get that back up there. You gotta be up there where you go. Alright, now you gotta feel around there and you'll feel it go into place. Okay, you want to make sure that it gets a good fit and back down where it should be. And if you do, it'll almost look like, well, it'll look like those pieces of metal were machined together. Okay, now I'm going to put my first 3 screws in. I'm going to put a little CLP on them right off of this rag here. Just rub them right through there. There's one. 2. I'm just dropping them in the holes. I'm not screwing them in yet. 3. Now remember, use good screw bits, ones that actually fit. Okay? Don't cross thread a screw, whatever you do. I don't want to tighten them all the way up just yet. I just want to start them. Now, for all you guys about tightening stuff to spec, do it. Okay, I've done a few of these, so now I'm pretty affluent in where I need to be on torque. So, but don't trust yourself. If get you a torque wrench, and I've got one. I don't know where it's at because I couldn't tell you the last time I used it, to be honest. All right, but these are small screws, small machine screws. Don't over tighten them, and you just want to snug them. And if you feel that one of them's backing out on you at any time after you do this, just put your little dab of Loctite on it. Okay, now here comes the screw that I was talking about, and this is a little bitty fella, but he's very important. He's very, very important. Okay, and goes right up here. Now, you just want to touch him down and then turn the gun over. See how that feels. That's a very, not any resistance at all. Oh man, that's awesome the way that cylinder comes in and out now. It was really sticky before. It's not now. That's really nice. Alright, but now I still want to tighten that screw up just a bit more. It's not, this is a bottom out situation, okay? You don't want to tighten that up too tight. That feels really good. I'm going to try the double action. Double action's working good. Alright, now remember, when you put that mainspring in, you'll have to adjust the tension a little bit so that it'll be free, so it'll cycle, so you can put your side plate on. Then after you get everything buttoned back up, then you can adjust it to how you want the tension on the mainspring. It's not a big issue, just don't forget. Okay, so now we've got the mainspring put back in, semi-adjusted. We have everything lubricated on the inside of the pistol. Everything's good and clean. Got the cylinder back in, got the side plate back on, and tightened down to just snug those screws. Don't over tighten them. They're little machine screws. They're very small, very old, and not very easy to get. If you strip one out or break it inside of there, you may be in real trouble. Just be careful. Don't worry about over tightening them, or leaving them too loose, rather. If you have one that's backing out, put a little dab of blue thread lock on it. Don't use the red, use the blue, just a little bit, and that way it won't come out during regular firing and handling. You won't have to worry about it. So now we got everything back together. Before we put the handles on, I want to do a function test. Number one, I want to make sure that the cylinder swings out easily and goes back easily, and that thing feels like a new gun the way that cylinder works now. And it was really draggy and real sticky. You could, I mean, don't do this, but you could do the cowboy flip, but I really don't like when people do that. To me, that's destroying it. Alright, we got a real good loose, free cylinder. Everything locks up good and tight. Our injector rod works really well. That's good. Look everything over on this end. Everything looks good. Alright, now we got to close the cylinder up. We're going to try every cylinder, make sure they lock up and they don't click out. That's the fifth one. Sixth one. Now here's what we're going to do on every cylinder again. There's the first one. We're going to try push off. Okay, it didn't work on that one. If it don't work on the first one, it'll be fine on all of them. If it doesn't push off. But I just, for my state of mind, I like to do one on every cylinder. I don't know. I know there's nothing in there that'll change it, because the push off is going to be in the sear and the disconnector. But that's something you need to check on these old pistols. Not necessarily because there'll be that much wear, but these old guns, this gun's nearly 100 years old, and it's probably passed hands a few times, so who knows who's been inside of there and may have decided they wanted to adjust that trigger to where it was a lot shorter, and it don't got no travel to it at all. This thing's got a really good trigger. I mean, it just breaks. And some people may have got in there and done a little homework on the sear and the disconnector and made it where the trigger pulled a lot better if they was wanting to shoot for target stuff. And I have seen guys that worked them all the way down where you pushed on that hammer and the hammer would fall. And I've seen some of them in newer guns, newer, you know, not nearly as old as this gun is, that would do that. And that's extraordinarily dangerous, because if that thing, if you push it and it goes down, it's still got the load weight of that mainspring. That gun's going off. It's got a round in it. And you know what happens when you have an unintended discharge. Most of the time you shoot something or somebody. So be careful with that. Check every revolver you got for push off. Make sure, just the same as you would check any gun you got in a house that has a safety, make sure that safety works. Don't trust that it'll work, make sure it works. But my advice is also, if you got one of these older guns like this, and with this K-frame, this holds 6 rounds instead of 5. Just carry 5. Leave the hammer on a dead cylinder, because this thing does got a hammer disconnector rod in there, but if you drop the gun and the hammer arm itself breaks, the point of the hammer may still come down and hit the cap in the round that you got in the chamber, and the primer go off, and then there you are, the gun's going off, going places you don't want it to, you don't intend for it to go. But guys, there, we're going to put the handles back on it. Now the handles are a pretty simple affair. You don't really have to worry too awful much with them, because I'm not going to do anything to these handles, simply because these are the original handles that come on this gun. All the patina that's on them and everything that's happened to these handles in the life of the gun, that make up, it's like the ambiance, I guess you'd call it. That's a $30 word. I expect to use one of those today. Okay, don't want to over tighten those, because that will pull the handles down and cause them to break. Now I am going to rub a little of this CLP on that wood to seal it up and make sure that it doesn't get any water in it. And then I'm going to wipe it back off. Okay, so now they got pretty good sheen on the handles, but they're not going to be so slick you can't handle it. Now let's do a little function test. Oh yeah, that's so slick. That is so slick, and we ain't even done the other side yet. All we gotta do is just rub it down though. Wow, that's good. All right, now get my little rag here with the CLP. Give the outside of this thing a good going over. I wish folks would take care of these old guns better than they do, but you know, some people aren't gun people. Some people were given a gun after someone died, or as a gift, and they weren't really gun people, but they don't really understand what to do to take care of the firearms. And I'm glad there's still people like me that's around that know how to take care of them, and that want to take care of them. Okay, that's the big thing. You've got to have people around that want to take care of them, and I do. I want to see these old guns make it for another 100 years. I don't know if I will or not, but that's my goal. Well guys, there you have it. I'm going to guess this gun made in the mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s. It is a Smith & Wesson Model 10 K-frame. K-frame means holds 6 rounds, not 5. It is a police military issue, and the little handles that are on it are really neat thing to see. You don't see many of these, what a lot of people call DA handles. They're a small handle, so it's made to get in and out of your pocket a lot easier if you need to. Don't see many of these around anymore, but this is a pretty nice one. It's in good working condition now. I would fire the gun. I would probably not fire factory loads out of it. I'd probably ask someone to reload me some that are lower power, so I don't really have to worry about overpressure in the gun, because these are old guns made with old steel, and a lot of the new ammunition you get today are a lot hotter than the ammunition that was intended to be shot in these guns. But you know, if they're in good shape, good working order, you look them over good, make sure everything's good, nothing's loose, nothing's cracked, nothing's just worn out, most of the time you'll be okay. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative, and if you got one of these guns or a similar Smith & Wesson old K-frame that you want to get in and clean, it's not a daunting thing. Just take your time and make sure that you go through the process the way I just did and get you one of these little sonic cleaners. It's awesome for stuff like this. It's great. You don't have to sit here and scrub and scrub and scrub. You can stick it in there and go watch TV for 15 or 20 minutes. Come back and you're ready to go. Well guys, this is the Fat Man. I'll see you in the next video. Hey y'all, appreciate you watching this video. Hope to see you in the next one. This is the Fat Man. I'm gone.